With pedophiles, sex offenders, and murderers, should the death penalty be legal? How about rape? How about stealing? Should that be faced with your hand being cut off? What does it really mean to have an eye for an eye? Also in the news, we have CNN saying that the January 6th footage has not been censored, and a lot more on this episode of the Demetrios Araujo Show.
Facts over tracks, this and that, spitting slow, spitting fast, I could roast, I could gas, think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past.
If you noticed, yes, we do have a new intro. I hope that you guys like it. Anyway, let's start off in this situation that involves a sex offender which served time for his wrongdoings in 1979. He was arrested for sexually assaulting a 6-year-old girl. At the time, the man was 33 years old. Because of this, the guy, which is named Lawrence V. Scully, was placed on a sex offender list, which led to a father named Livy Axel keeping an eye on him and noticing him outside of his 22-month-old daughter's daycare every single day. When he went to pick her up, the man was outside. Whenever the daughter went on a walk, Scully, reportedly in his van, looking at the kids play at this daycare every single day. After months and months of this happening, Axel reached out to the local police department and said, and I quote, "He has been there many times stalking children in his van. He is a convicted pedophile and he's attempting to groom my daughter, which is completely inappropriate and needs to stop." After submitting for a restraining order, the court took it away after a few weeks, which resulted in Scully reportedly going back to the daycare and watching the children again. After Scully did this, Axel visited Scully at his home and beat him with a shovel 15 times, and then, quote, finished him off with an antler. Then, Axel went to the police station to report himself in. This all happened in 2018, but Axel was just now sentenced to a second-degree murder charge and a $1 million bond. What do you guys think about this? Do you think that this is justice, or do you think that this is fair? To me, this is not only justice for a 6-year-old girl, but it also stops Scully from hurting anybody else in a detrimental way. What do you guys think about this situation? Do you think that Axel went overboard? Scully obviously did. He should not even be allowed in the vicinity of a school. And I think that the court failed this father. And because of this, the father wanted to take it into his own hands. Now, with that being said, we're going to be moving into the headlines of the week. Starting from the top, we actually have a Daily Wire article. We actually have TikTok is under criminal investigation for spying on American citizens. TikTok, whose parent company is ByteDance, is controlled by the communist China and is reportedly under federal criminal investigation for surveying United States citizens. Wow, who would have guessed? A Chinese app serves the Chinese government. Wait a second. So the Chinese government likes to keep tabs on everything, everybody, everything, all day long, all the time. They want to keep tabs on all of these things. And you're telling me that an app from China is spying on you? What? Oh my God, this is breaking news. The news comes as lawmakers released bipartisan legislation earlier this month that will allow the United States to ban the app. The Biden administration has stated that it supports their legislation. Because it's so funny that on this legislation, while it was under the Trump administration, Trump was going to ban TikTok. And then everybody on TikTok was saying that, why is our app being controlled by old white men? But the person that you elected is going to go and ban your app anyway. It's just so funny. Forbes reported to the FBI Department of Justice Criminal Investigation and Fraud Section and United States Attorney of the Eastern District of Virginia opened the criminal investigation over TikTok spying on American journalists. That's all you care about? No. TikTok is spying on a lot more than just journalists. They're spying on every single American citizen. Forbes was the first to report that Beijing-based company was surveying United States journalists and later reported that TikTok admitted that it happened. TikTok General Counsel Eric Anderson wrote in an internal company email obtained by Forbes that in the case of individuals misuse their authority to obtain access to TikTok user data. ByteDance spokesperson Jennifer Banks confirmed that the publication that the spying did occur. We have strongly condemned the actions of the individuals found to be involved, and they are no longer employed at ByteDance, she said. Our internal investigation is still ongoing, and we will cooperate with any official investigations that one brought to us. The Biden administration banned this week that ByteDance sell the virtual video application or face an outright ban in the United States. Good. Wow, this is the second thing that the Joe Biden administration did in 3 years. That's crazy. Wow. The Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States, a board composed of 9 cabinet-level officials who weigh the national security implications of international investments, recently ordered ByteDance to sell the platform. According to a report from the Wall Street Journal released on Wednesday, the company vowed to spend $1.5 billion to protect American user data and ensure that the Chinese officials could not have access to it. FBI Director Chris Wray stunned United States senators last week in a Senate Intelligence Committee hearing when he was revealed that the capabilities of the app gives Communist China. In response to a line of questioning from ranking member Marco Rubio, Wei said that the Communist China can use TikTok to control data of millions of users, to control the software of millions of devices, and that they can use it to drive narratives to pit Americans against each other. Of course, because that's what they've been doing. And I think that the most fundamental piece that cuts across everyone of those risks and threats that you mentioned that I think Americans need to understand is that something that's very scared in this country. That difference between the private sector and the public sector. That's a line that is not existent in a way that the CCP operates. Rubio then noted that the differences in what users in China see on TikTok opposed to what the users in the United States see on TikTok. For example, in the United States, the kids are being encouraged to choke themselves out. We've had kids die, Rubio noted. In China, they are encouraged to focus on math and science and building the country. Wei agreed that Marco Rubio's assessment that the poison that China is pumping into the feeds of the United States users is one of the many ways that China is using the app to weaken the damage of the United States. And I completely agree. Nothing good comes out of China. That's it. If it comes out of China, nope, we don't want it. Moving on to the next article, we actually have another Daily Wire article. Depoliticizing our economy is a two-way street. In 1825, addressing the American Society of Newspaper Editors, President Calvin Coolidge remarked, quote, "After all, the chief business of the American people is business. They are profoundly concerned with producing, buying, selling, investing, and prospering the world. Sadly, it's growing more and more common for considerations that have nothing to do with business to determine who gets to do business. Many are finding it impossible to even participate in the day-to-day business of America due to ideological litmus tests, cancel culture, and banking. Last year, without notice of explanation, J.P. Morgan Chase closed the account of National Committee for Religious Freedom, a nonprofit advocacy group that exists to defend the right of everyone in America to live in their faith freely. NCRF's chairman is Sam Brownback, a former United States Senator, Republican governor, and a United States ambassador at large for international religious freedom, in order to reconsider the account closure. Brownback said that Chase required NCRF to disclose a list of donors who contributed to 10% or more of its operating budget. If someone like former Governor Brownback is forced to turn over information that his supporters to keep a checking account, what chance does the average small business owner have if a loan officer doesn't like the latest social media post? This is an un-America, a society where adherence to particular worldview is required to access business services essential for functioning in a daily life, puts up a path toward the social credit system in the Chinese Communist Party. When a person discovers that he or she is headed in the wrong direction, the only way to make progress is to turn back. Nearly 100 years after President Coolidge's assignment, it seems like the chief business of the American people is inserting politics into every aspect of life. While there are certain aspects of the Roaring Twenties we would do best to avoid repeating a return to a cultural view of politics as one aspect of the American life instead of the entirety would let some of the steam currently pressuring the civic sphere. The stakes in each election seem higher than the last, while our balkanization continues to accelerate as our rhetoric becomes more bombastic. Civic discourse feels like a quaint but distant memory. Not even the ability to participate in the economy is the question of politics. Okay, so I completely agree. If we want to have a good economy, if we want to have a good overall United States, then we need to get politics out of the economy sphere. You cannot take your political ideology and force it into your business and then now expect everybody to exactly agree with that. So I completely agree with that. Let's get politics out of our economy. That's the two-way street. And going back to the first point that I made, yes, our economy can't consist of purely political businesses. But of course, we can have some political businesses because if you have a media company, obviously you're political. And if you're that said media company, you can have off branches like merch and stuff like that. Obviously, that's going to be political. But just like getting a coffee, you don't need to be highly political. Just like getting a shovel, you don't need to be highly political. Now, moving into the next segment of the Demetrios Araujo Show, we have a dozen takes.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take I got no love.
Now, starting off in the dozen takes segment, we actually have CNN. Now, I just love how CNN does these little segments of their media called Facts First, because nothing that they say is actually factual, and it's just so funny to actually think for a second that CNN would actually report on the facts. But moving right in, fact check. Elon Musk amplifies false claim that January 6th video was censored. It was. January 6th footage was censored. That's it. If you think that the media told you the right story of January 6th, then you are highly mistaken. And if you think that the media also told you the right story about the riots that happened in 2020, then you're still mistaken. A conservative commentator with a substantial Twitter following went viral late last week by making false claims about the insurrection at the United States Capitol on January 6, 2021. And Twitter owner Elon Musk amplified some of the misinformation, pushing it to millions of people. The conservative commentator Chuck Calistro inaccurately tweeted that various publicly available videos in January 6 has been censored. Musk amplified one of these claims. Callisto also put inaccurate captions over January 6 footage to push a baseless narrative that the riot perpetrated by Trump supporters were actually carried out by left-wing Antifa activists, because it did. Antifa broke into the Capitol on January 6th. That's exactly what happened. You can see they had Antifa logos all over them in the videos that you guys censored and suppressed. But, of course, we still had Antifa at the forefront of it, but then we had Trump supporters actually getting involved also. So it wasn't just Antifa, but Antifa was the one breaking the windows of the Capitol building and doing all the damage, or most of it. On Friday, Callisto tweeted a video of a man who was putting on pro-Trump attire and urging other men to do the same in order to blend in. Callisto wrote, "Just in, previously censored video reemerges showing Antifa members dressing up as Trump supporters in D.C. Facts first. False. This was not an Antifa video, and it has not been censored. The man dressing up as a Trump supporter on the camera is a comedian Walter Matterson, who regularly mocks the far right and went on to Capitol Hill with a colleague on January 6th with the intention of producing humorous interview content. Matterson's extended footage, including the part where he puts on pro-Trump outfit and talks about blending in, has been on YouTube for more than 2 years. He responded on Twitter on Friday, "I was at Capitol Hill on January 6th. I documented my whole entire time there. I went on live and streamed it. My videos received millions of views on every platform. Yet, 2 years later, QAnon takes my videos and scream, 'Ha ha, we found him.'" Callisto has more than 450,000 followers on Twitter, and this false tweet has been viewed more than 9 million times as of Wednesday. Okay, so just because we have not found that person does not mean that Antifa as a whole was not there, because Antifa is going to go to any event that they seem fit to go and wreck the United States because they hate the United States. Why wouldn't they go to the Capitol building of the United States? Trump supporters, not Antifa. Also on Friday, Callisto tweeted a video that showed rioters breaching the Capitol, mostly wearing what appeared to be black clothing. One carried a Confederate flag. Okay, the Confederate flag is not bad, actually. Callisto wrote, previously censored video re-emerges of people reassembling Antifa in black clad, making the initial breach into the Capitol. He added, and he, as he did in many of his other tweets about January 6th, won't see this on CNN. Facts first, CNN says. The video has been artificially darkened, making the rioters' clothing look much more solidly black than it actually was. Are you serious? So now you're saying that it was doctored. So you're saying that the actual footage from the day was doctored. The original video shows that these rioters were wearing a variety of colors in outfits. The original video was not censored. In fact, it did appear on CNN more than 2 years ago when it was played by Democrats during Trump's second impeachment trial. And there's no basis for any suggesting that the group of rioters might be Antifa. Several of the rioters in the clip, including the man carrying the Confederate flag, has been identified as a Trump supporter. It is abundantly clear from the roughly 1,000 arrests so far that the insurrection was perpetrated by adherent Trump devotees. Some of them have explicitly debunked the conspiracy theories that they were Antifa members. Okay, so let me ask you a question. How about the person that said, let's bomb the Capitol building? Is he arrested? No. How about the people that was saying, let's hang Mike Pence? Are those people arrested? No. Because the people that are arrested are only Trump supporters. You're not going to go arrest your friends in the media, your Antifa members. Of course you're not going to arrest them. Moving on to the next article from CNN. We are actually going to be talking about the Russian fighter jet that forced down a United States drone over the Black Sea. Now, if you did not hear already, a Russian fighter jet forced down a United States Air Force drone over the Black Sea on Tuesday after damaging the propeller of the American MQ-9 Raptor drone, according to the United States military. Now, before we go on further, I would like to say that this is actually an accident. Like, I cannot picture a time that Russia would go head on with the United States. It just does not happen. I do not see this happening. It does not happen on purpose. This was probably fully on accident because I just cannot see this happening. Moving on, the Raptor drone on the two Russian Su-27 aircraft was flying over the international waters of the Black Sea on Tuesday when one of the Russian jets intentionally flew in front of and dumped fuel on the unmanned drone several times. A statement from the United States European Command said. The aircraft then hit the propeller of the drone, prompting the United States forces to bring the MQ-9 drone into international waters. Pentagon spokesperson Bren Glenn General Patrick Ryder added Tuesday that the Russian aircraft flew in the vicinity of the drone for 30 to 40 minutes before colliding just after 7 a.m. Central European Time. Our MQ-9 aircraft was conducting a routine operations in international airspace when it was intercepted and hit by a Russian aircraft, resulting in a crash and complete loss of the MQ-9. Air Force General James B. Heckler, commander of the United States Air Force of Europe and the Air Force of Africa, said in a statement, in fact, this is unsafe and unprofessional act by the Russians nearly caused both aircrafts to crash. The incident remarks the first time that Russian and the United States military aircraft came into direct physical contact since Russia launched its invasion of Ukraine just over a year ago, and it is likely to increase tensions between the two nations, with the United States calling Russia's actions reckless, environmentally unsound, and unprofessional, and it is. Russian ambassador to the United States, Anthony Antov, said that Russia does not want confrontation between his country and the United States after he was summoned to the State Department following the drowning of the drone. We prefer not to create a situation that we could face unintended clashes or unintended instances between the Russian Federation and the United States. Yeah, because they can even take Ukraine. Imagine the United States facing Ukraine or the United States facing Russia. That would be that's not even a question. The United States would win head on. Moving on to the next article from MSNBC, we actually have why this Trump lawyer showdown with Ari Melber didn't go as planned. So, on Tuesday night, in a striking bit of cable news programming, which is fake news, MSNBC host Ari Melber invited Trump attorney Joe Tacopina to the studio to defend his famous client, who may be about to be indicted by more than one of the prosecutors. We got him now. The segment featured a lot of excuses and some clearly flawed logic. Tacopina notably argued that Trump's lies about the Stormy Daniels hush payment wasn't actually lies for at least two reasons. First, because the former president wasn't under oath when he said them, and the second, because he didn't want to violate a confidentiality clause. Okay, so why aren't you doing quotes of what he actually says? Why are you restating what he says? This makes me not want to believe you. Also, secondly, why would he want to have sex with Stormy Daniels? Trump can get a lot better than that. Why would he just go for a sex for one day? Why wouldn't he go for a long-term relationship like what he had with Ivanka or Melania? Why would he just go for a one-day hookup? You couldn't really blame Trump's attorney. Prosecutors get to select and curate the facts that they take or don't take to trial. Defense attorneys don't get to pick their facts. They often have to take the facts as they are and figure out what to do. They may also answer the obvious question of why Tacopina decided to go live on TV hit in the first place and try to thread this very tricky needle. The answer, it probably wasn't his choice. His mission was likely to explain why Trump's lies, while also undermining the accusations in New York and Georgia. Did he succeed? Maybe a little, but not because he successfully rebutted any main arguments. Instead, it may have helped distract the primary issue, whether Trump did anything worth of prosecution by the New York County's DA's office. No, of course not. He did not do anything wrong. That's exactly... How many times are you going to attack this guy? 7 times? 8 times now? What? Is this the 100th time? We got him now. Oh, no, that one failed. The first impeachment failed. We got him now. The second impeachment failed. This one with his business dealings and him buying a car for personal use using the finance money. We got him now. But then every single business, even CNN does this. Every single business in America does this. Oh, we got him now with the New York County DA's office now. Like, how many times are you going to try to get this guy now and then fail at it? And then you're just not going to talk about your failures. Moving on to the next article, we actually have a Daily Wire article. We have Weaponization Committee launches probe into Air Force leak. The unauthorized disclosure of the United States military personnel records by the Air Force to an obsession research firm funded by Democrats is now under investigation by the House Weaponization Committee. Leading the charge as are Chairman Jim Jordan, Republican from Ohio, and Rep. Chris Stewart, Republican from Utah, a former Air Force pilot. They sent a letter on Thursday to the military branch's top officials seeking various documents and communications the Daily Wire can reveal. To advance our oversight and to inform potential legislative reforms, we write to request information about this serious breach of our service members' personal information, the congressman wrote. The House Judicial Committee and its Select Subcommittee in the Weaponization of the Federal Government are investigating the mass collection and dissemination of information about American citizens of federal agencies, they added. At issue are revelations stating the last fall when Politico published a profile of Indiana GOP House candidate Jennifer Ruth Green, which revealed that she had been sexually assaulted while in the military. The candidate, who ultimately lost her race, told Fox News the information used for the report was illegally obtained. An Air Force audit found that the unauthorized release of the military duty information on 11 individuals, service spokesperson and Steinfnick told CNN in February, 2 members of Congress, Reps. Don Bacon and Zach Noon, divulged that their records were among those leaked between October 21 and October 22. Some Republican leaders have already requested information from the Defense Department. Rep. Anna Paulina Luna, Republican from Florida, an Air Force veteran, said that she has reason to believe her records were also leaked and predicted that there will be a criminal investigation. Major General Troy Dunn, commander of the Air Force Personnel Center, sent a letter to Bacon stating that Abraham Payton, identified as analyst in the research firm called Due Diligence LLC, inappropriately requested copies of the military personnel documents for the stated purpose of employment and benefits, and had possession of Beacon's social security number at the time of request. Politico reported that Payton is a former research director of the Democratic political group American Bridge. The report also said that the Federal Election Committee records show that Due Diligence Group, who claims to specialize in use of public records research to provide our clients with knowledge and insights needed to drive statistic decision making, revealed a little over $110,000 between January 2021 and December 2022. The Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, DCCC. As of now, there is no indication that the DCCC coordinated with the due diligence group to obtain the records, and it wasn't immediately clear whether due diligence was behind all the requests that led to 11 unauthorized disclosures. Two Republican lawmakers have said Green's information was released to the same group, and that Air Force has said virtually all of the 11 disclosures were made to an individual who represented himself as a background investigator seeking service records for employment purposes. Stenfrenik, the Air Force spokesperson, insisted that there was no evidence of political motivation or malicious intent on the part of any employee at this service. The Air Force takes full responsibility for releasing the personal identificational information of these individuals, she added. Records release procedures have been improved by elevating the approval level for release of information to third parties in the conducting and testified restraining for personnel who handle record requests. Still, OSAF may have violated Department of Defense policies and federal law. Jordan and Stewart wrote in their letter, while the Air Force has rightfully taken responsibility for these inappropriate OMPF official military personnel files disclosures, questions remain unanswered about the United States Air Force's collection, maintenance, and dissemination of the sensitive information. Jordan and Stewart requested from Air Force Secretary Frank Kendall a slew of documents and communications, including those related to due diligence group, dating back to the beginning of 2021. They also asked for a complete list of names of former or current OSAF employees involved in or responsible for the improper release of OMPFs for the period of January 1st, 2021 to the present, as well as any administrative or disciplinary action taken against them. The lawmakers set the deadline of 5 p.m. March 30th. The Daily Wire reached out to the Air Force seeking comment to the new letter. And people are saying in the comments that the whole entire military is a disgrace. Exactly, because how are you going to sign up to risk your life? And then now they're just going to put your information to whoever. It's just not right. Moving on to the next article, we actually have an advocate article. We actually have Dylan Mulvaney celebrates 365 days of girlhood with live show in New York. Oh, quote unquote, trans TikTok sensation Dylan Mulvaney marked the 1-year anniversary of his Days of Girlhood series by hosting a cabinet show on Monday called Dylan Mulvaney's Day 365 live at the legendary Rainbow Room in New York. This is their words, not mine. Yesterday was the best day of my life, he shared in a TikTok video discussing the event's success. The 80-minute variety show was a star-studded affair featuring a comedy sketch from Rachel Bonhan, performances from Mulvaney, Kate Bush, covers, and dating segment led by Queer Eye's Jonathan Van Ness. The show also raised funds for the Trevor Project, which is an evil organization which provides, quote, mental health support and, quote, LGBTQ plus counseling. Dylan, 26, spoke to Variety before the show, expressing surprise at just how much he has learned about womanhood in the last year. Going in, I had no idea just how vulnerable I would get, he said. Mulvaney also discussed the positive impact of his Days of Girlhood series, which has received over 1 billion views. Has received messages from people who feel closer to what? This just makes no sense. Let me just read that sentence again. Mulvaney also discussed the positive impact of his Days of Girlhood series. I'm just going to skip over the 1 billion views part. Saying that he has received messages from people who feel closer to their true selves after watching his videos about transitioning. Quote unquote, transitioning. The show wasn't without its challenges. However, Mulvaney's transition journey has been met with criticism from some online communities. No, all online communities. Because nobody will truly accept you as a girl because you will never become a girl. Because you can't. An adult version of a girl is a woman, first of all. Second of all, a guy can't become a woman. That's second of all. And the show addressed this head on with Mulvaney's fellow trans sisters dismantled negative rhetoric from comments on his TikTok videos and broke down the definition of TERF, trans exclusionary radical feminist. Okay, so you're a TERF. The show also featured a compilation video of right-wing commentators dismissing Mulvaney's gender identity. It's not dismissing, and which was met with boos from the audience, of course, because the audience was full of blue-haired lesbians. Despite the challenges, Mulvaney is poised to embark in the new chapter of his life. Earlier in March, Mulvaney remarked in the Variety's Mark Mulkin that he might scale back from TikTok and explore new artistic endeavors, such as creating a musical entertainment series. Okay, so this is exactly what Dylan always wanted to do. Dylan was actually doing this before he quote unquote transitioned to a girl. He always did this in the spotlight. He loved the spotlight. He loved performing. This is exactly why he started the TikTok, to actually start performing as a girl, doing woman face. And because of this, he saw a little bit of success. And because of this, he just wants to keep doing what he was doing before, but as a quote unquote girl. Now let's watch a little segment from the show here. Oh yeah, actually, this actually is not. Oh, they didn't even post a segment of the show. Oh, I can't. I went on the bottom of the Advocate, and there's a lot of ads for other stories. I'm just gonna read out some of the articles that they have listed right under this article, right? 24 tips for giving amazing head. 73 photos of naturally naked men by Terry hashtags. 36 fetishes every gay man should know. 95 photos of young men up to no good. 23 masturbation tips for people with vaginas, which we're calling women now. Queer Eye star Tom Jackson dead at 63. 22 terrifying sexual fantasies that must be talked about. 30 kinky terms every gay man should know. 10 sex toys for all genders and how to use them. Alternative orgasms, 20 new ways to hit the spot. Why is this what is being recommended right after Dylan Mulvaney's story? This is just disgusting. Oh, I can't. Ooh, I can't. This is disgusting. I can't. Okay, moving with the article. Also on Monday, an episode of the Drew Barrymore show, Mulvaney featured an interview with Barrymore. I think the greatest weapon that I can contribute is, quote, trans joy and comedy and talking about hard subjects and really intertry moments of transition and try to let everybody in to see that I'm not a monster. I'm not somebody that is trying to do anything but be myself, he told host Drew Barrymore. Okay, so you are doing a lot more than just being yourself, because if you were just being yourself, then you wouldn't have the Days of Girlhood on your TikTok, which millions of people see, and that influence our culture. Okay, moving on to the next article, we actually have a Federalist article. We actually have being a woman requires more than makeup, dresses, and TikTok theatrics. Of course it does. When President Biden decided to sit down for an interview with Dylan Mulvaney, the left's most recent transgender it girl, it was reminiscent of President Obama's many fluff interviews with social media icons. The interview was different, however, because it could have an actual influence on national policy, as Biden noted, along with praised Mulvaney for his 222 day as a girl. It occurred to me how absurd the entire scene was. The whole ordeal presents serious problems about the legitimacy of our political system, but also how women find themselves represented in 2022. Mulvaney, most known for his TikTok Days of Girlhood series, represents one of the best examples of obscenity of the modern transgender movement. As Amber Athley boldly pointed out in the article titled, "My Womanhood is Not Your Costume," which we read on the show, womanhood is now routinely publicly mocked and degraded by a group of men playing dress up. But the most effective part of Mulvaney's act is that it debraces women to the lowest stereotypes, that the women are being told to the truth dead in the eyes and then spit in its face. Mulvaney began transitioning less than a year ago and decided to document his daily experiences through what is indistinguishable from right-wing satire, taking on the common attitude that he is doing society a goodness by taking time to properly educate the ignorant masses. Mulvaney's style is condescending, aggressive, and entitled, yet the casual observer, he appears frantic, hostile, and frankly creepy, often with an aggravated smile and manic eyes that tell the story of depression, not confidence. As Atlee details, Mulvaney's idea of girlhood seems limited to a Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen movie from the early 2000s. He dresses up and behaves like a stereotype of a young teenage girl, with literal bows in his hair, and appears to have been made a mental checklist of all the girls what all the girls like and don't like, which he ticks off in his videos. Girls don't like bugs, check. Girls wear shopping short, check. Along with the persona of overly excitable teenager, Mulvaney, which is 25, exhibits moments of activist hostility. On day 74 of his series, he bounces into screen wearing tight black leather or latex shorts he refers to as shopping shorts, with an overt confrontation of his biological sex on full display. He begins his story by noting that when he went on a recent shopping trip, he noticed that people kept staring at his crotch. He explains that he forgot that his crotch doesn't look like many other women's crotches sometimes, because mine doesn't look like a little Barbie pocket. For a moment, he appears to slip into adult lucidity and recognize that he could simply wear clothing that doesn't draw attention, but snaps right back into his wide-eyed, exaggerated persona, demanding that perhaps everyone else should merely normalize the idea of women sometimes having bulges. To emphasize this, he begins to sing, "Women can have bulges, that's okay," before getting to the point of the video with the problems coming down to the average people noticing the bulge and judging him for it. Or so he assumes, not actual judgment he described in the video beyond what is imagined by others are thinking. Mulvaney's antics would be a little bit more than an eye roll and inducing typical internet nonsense if the influencer wasn't simultaneously promoted by institutions such as Forbes, Ulta Beauty, and the White House. He is not only the face of what transgender activism represents, but what being a woman means in 2022. You see, Mulvaney isn't perpetrating himself as a person overcoming gender dysphoria and living their best life on their own terms. He portrays himself as the typical modern woman who is entitled to speak for all women and the issues they face. They notes this important distinction, saying, quote, "I will always pray for the people suffering from gender dysphoria are able to find a peace with who they are. However, I do not have any sympathy for those who play act in the woman using Hecate stereotypes, pretend to speak for us, and then have the stones to tell us that we are the problem when we don't comply with their delusion. End of quote. For me, this is the deafening line in the sand. Quote, transgender women are simply not women. Like so many so-called transgender women, Mulvaney appears to be trapped in a loop where being a girl is an endless series of slumber parties, makeup tutorials, and being cute, sassy, and fox empowered. His idea of a woman is a fantasy manufactured by movies and TV shows, where strong womanhood is implementized by shuttering down in New York City street in a tight dress and heels, arms confidently holding bags of designer clothes. I had the same fantasy as a child. Being a girl represented safety and acceptance. As a teenager, it represented glamour and power. And as an adult, it represented freedom and fulfillment. But the truth was, and still is, I have absolutely no idea what being a woman means. And neither does Mulvaney. I was never a girl, and neither was he. We both experienced what it was like to not fit in with other boys, but we only imagined what it would be like to be a girl, no matter how vivid and compelling that fantasy was for either of us. And despite Mulvaney's desperate attempts at making it real, it's still a fantasy. For most of the lifespan of the movement, the response from regular people has been a little bit more than a raised eyebrow and a live and let live attitude. However, the tolerant worldview that prioritizes individual freedom over personal opinion is no longer enough to keep the lines between their life and their own clearly defined, as more individuals like Mulvaney are promoted as absolute authorities on womanhood. Real women must stand up and challenge these offensive and inaccurate portrayals. As left-wing feminists have insisted for decades, I am not a woman, so I cannot defend what a woman is. Ladies, it's up to you. Exactly. I completely agree. Where are the feminists now? Where are the feminists actually complaining that, oh, men are taking over our space and men are getting paid more? Yeah, Dylan Mulvaney is getting paid more than the average girl, and he's not even a girl. He's not a girl, and he's getting paid more than women. Why is that fair? Feminists, come on, attack him. You're saying that men get paid more than girls? Yeah, Dylan Mulvaney is making 5 times the amount of what you're making right now. I can almost guarantee you, Dylan Mulvaney is making millions of dollars per year. Why are you not outraged? He's making more than you. Why are you not outraged? He's making more money than you, a woman. A fake woman is being made more than you. Be mad. Come on, I'll join you. With that being said, we're going to end the show off right here. Thank you all for watching, thank you all for listening, and I hope that you have a great rest of your day. If you did like this video, please like and subscribe down below because I do have new episodes of the show every single Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Thank you all and have a great one.